So hello and welcome. My name's Dave Petley. I'm Pro Vice-Chancellor for Research and Enterprise here at UEA. And welcome to this inaugural lecture. One of the great pleasures of my role as PVC here is the opportunity to work with our researchers across the entire institution. And perhaps the greatest pleasure of all is the opportunity to come along to inaugural lectures and listen to some of our very best professors talking with passion about the research that they've undertaken through their careers. So welcome to tonight's inaugural lecture. I'm delighted to be introducing Professor Richard Harvey. He's Professor of Computer Science here at UEA. Richard trained as an electrical engineer and completed his PhD in the application of statistical estimation theory in problems of underwater acoustics. He worked for the Plessey and Marconi companies, some of us remember them, I guess, in underwater acoustics. As an acoustician and scientist before joining UEA in 1993, where he is Professor of Computer Science and runs a group of scientists conducting research in computer vision. He's authored over 100 publications in the areas of signal processing, computer vision, and artificial intelligence. His current project involves teaching a computer to lip-read humans in multiple languages. Richard is one of the people that we would consider to be a truly great citizen of UEA. He's Academic Director of Admissions here at the university, where he's responsible for the admissions and outreach strategy for the university across all categories of students. He currently sits on the UCAS Council and has served on several national bodies in admissions matters. He also leads the university's internationalization agenda, responsible for developing partnerships and exploring international links. And what he probably won't tell you is he flew in this morning from Saudi Arabia. Richard has a long-held interest in technology exploitation and has founded and run a number of spin-out companies. He currently chairs the investment committee for the Low Carbon Innovation Fund, a £25 million venture that is focused on low-carbon businesses in the Eastern region. He has helped to develop the university's online strategy and has been an early adopter of electronic teaching from the start of his career in the 1980s. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all visitors to the University of East Anglia tonight. It's great to see you here. And we'll now ask Professor Richard Harvey to present his inaugural lecture. Richard.
Oh, thanks, Dave. I can barely wait to hear myself talk after that introduction. I feel deeply honoured. So great. Lovely to see everyone. Now, and also greetings to the online community who are joining us live this evening, including 3 or 4 people who were with me in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. And for reasons that will become evident, that might be a little bit of a challenge because we're going to cover some material in this lecture which you would not normally cover in lectures in a bar in Riyadh. So let's see how we go. Now, this title of this lecture, I was inspired by the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And for those of you who don't know the Hitchhiker's Guide for the Galaxy, let me sort of give you a quick reminder. And the reminder is about this character called Zaphod Beeblebrox. And Zaphod was always interested in the latest technology, and he bought himself a pair of peril-sensitive sunglasses. And the peril-sensitive sunglasses were brilliant devices because when faced with any peril or danger, they immediately went black, thus insulating the person from any knowledge of the incoming danger.
Trust me. Zaphod, old mate. I trust you about as far as I could comfortably spit out a rat. This is a dead planet, man.
definitely something happening down there.
No.
Listen.
Well, you'll have to tune in and see the next episode. It then morphs into the wonderful theme tune, which we probably all remember so well from our youth. And Dave very kindly reminded us what this talk is not about. So people who've come from the admissions department, I'm sorry, I'm not going to talk about that. And you know I spend quite a lot of my time talking about that. And I talk about that, and I talk about that. And I'm definitely not going to talk about that. And I'm not going to talk about that, and I'm not going to talk about that. What I want to talk about is some stuff that I've been working on in relatively recently, and I'm going to pick a few topics, not everything I work on, but just some things that I thought were interesting, and also things that are going to enliven us this evening. And you know what you have to do in marketing. You need some nice, quick words that will describe your presentation. And here is my presentation in 3 words. I'm going to talk about that, I'm going to talk about that, and I'm going to talk about that. Okay? And just to get us started, I'm going to start with the sex. So I'm going to talk about the detection of pornography. Greetings, Saudi Arabian viewers. This was some work we did some time ago. The reason I've selected these things is because there's always a take-home from a lecture. And the idea is that everyone in this lecture will walk out of these doors knowing at least the terminology of computer vision and machine learning. It might not know a lot about it, but you'll know the terminology, which will, I hope, will be, that's my little gift to you. So, this pornography problem. In the early 1990s, email was a big discovery for a lot of people. And people had a nasty habit of attaching things on the bottom of their email that really shouldn't have been attached to the bottom of their email. And in this country, and in the United States of America, email is treated as tantamount to written correspondence on headed notepaper. Remember that, dear colleagues, the next time you're writing something very clever to someone. It's tantamount to written correspondence on headed notepaper. And a number of institutions became very worried about their liability. So they approached us, a company approached us, a wonderful company called Integralis at the time, and later became Content Technologies and then Baltimore Technologies, to see whether we could build a system that would automatically detect what was on image attachments. And the great problem with image attachments, of course, is like the problem with all obscenity and all difficult images, is offence is in the minds of the user. This is an advertisement by Greenpeace, and it appeared in a Sunday newspaper. I wouldn't count it as inoffensive myself, but this is the sort of thing you have to contend with. Now, when you're faced with this problem, the usual approach that's used in technology of this type is to search for keywords. And the idea is that you can't really analyse what's in the image, but you can analyse what's around the image. You can analyse the text. And this has become known in the industry as the spanking nuns approach. Spanking nuns containing the ultimate offence of violence, religious offence, and sexual connotation in only 2 words. Actually, your challenge, ladies and gentlemen, if you can think of a spanking nuns in 1 word, then you're a better person than I, but I will leave that for the beer afterwards. Oh, beer. Sorry about that, Saudi Arabia. Where we have a drink after this lecture. You are supping down on your non-alcoholic beer, colleagues, which I'm sure is very delicious. So how did we go about doing this? Well, the basic approach we adopted is the sort of hierarchy that you would see in most computer vision systems. And we did 3 things, one after another. And I'm going to come back to them in this lecture so that you have a sort of feeling as to what they might be. The first thing is, where is the thing that you need to deal with? That's the segmentation problem. Then we're going to extract some numbers that describe that thing. Those are called features, and we would call that feature extraction. And then the final stage is we're going to make some decisions about what it is. That last stage is usually called classification. So in this problem, first job, build a skin detector. And that turns out to be relatively easy. There are a number of skin detectors out there. Next job, extract some numbers. And they might be, and this is the art, by the way, of pattern recognition. There isn't an excellent way of extracting features. You often have to just sort of suck it and see. Well, you think, well, I'm interested in pornography. Maybe the amount of skin would be a relevant feature. Maybe the number of skin blobs would be a relevant feature. And the you iterate. So you make some choices, you try it, see what happens, and if you don't like it, you try some different choices. Now, there are better ways of doing this nowadays, but that's the basic tenet. So we're going to extract some numbers, and then those numbers you can represent graphically, just so you can understand what's going on. So if we took an image like this, another image with sexual connotations, and we would extract some numbers from it, maybe 3 numbers, and you could visualize those numbers in 3 dimensions. So off they go. We can think of them populating a 3-dimensional space, and what I'm drawing over here on the right is what mathematicians and machine learning people would call the feature space. And so that pink blob in the right-hand side, that represents the image over there on the left. And you can imagine doing that for all of your images. So each one of the images, you extract these features, and each one of those features is represented by one of these blobs in the image on the right. Okay so far? Everyone happy with that? Cool, right. So over on the left-hand side is all of these images, and these would usually be called the training data. So just to simplify things a bit, what we might do is just collect them together, like that, and those are the feature vectors over there, and those are what are called the classes, and on the top we have the training data, and then given some new data, which we haven't seen before, in blue, we want to ask ourselves, what sort of class could that be? Okay, so that's the whole of machine learning set out for you in 3 minutes. Right? That is the problem in machine learning. Given some training, can I work out, given some unseen point, what type of thing it is? And I've used colours here, but you might use symbols, you might use any one of those things. Okay, so that's the basic idea of the whole lecture. If you've got that, excellent. You are potential PhDs in machine learning. In fact, there are plenty of people in the audience who are potential PhDs in machine learning. So, one of the things you have to do if you're going to tackle this sort of problem is collect a lot of data. The more data you can collect, the better your understanding of that feature space will be, the more sophisticated your machine learning algorithms will be, and the better your system will perform. So I had a very nice graduate student called Alison Bosson, who very carefully scanned through a large number of emails and trapped about 11,000 images, and she went through all of these and categorized them. And these are the classes. So she said, I'm going to declare that these are called portraits. I'm going to declare that these are called graphics. And I'm going to declare that these are called people. It's a matter of opinion whether these things are or not. And miscellaneous. And, well, there's 2 other classes which I haven't shown you. Now, just before I get there, if you are in the bar in Saudi Arabia, you might just turn the laptop around. There's a very useful Arabic word, ladies and gentlemen, the 3 of you who are watching this from Riyadh, mudaneb, okay? Guilty, it means guilty. Okay, so you might need that word. Here we go. There's the nudity and there's the pornography. Okay, I didn't show you the pornography, I just showed you the skin masks. Feed that into your machine learning system, and we're going to measure how effective it is using something called a confusion matrix. So what we might do is we might ask ourselves, given one of these classes, say porn, how accurately can we identify it as porn? So how you would read this is the probability it really was porn, given that, the probability that it was identified as porn, given that it really was porn, is 0.89. So we could look across all of those classes, and these are real results from a real system, and you could expand that out to all of these classes, and that's typically the way you might summarize one of these machine learning systems. It's called a confusion matrix because it shows you all of the confusions. Now, ideally, all of those numbers on the on diagonal would be 1. So you would like the probability that you get this class miscellaneous right to be 1, and you'd like the probability you misidentify it as 0. You can't have that. That's very unrealistic. And it's rather confusing looking at this large number of classes. So if I just summarize them into 2 little classes, which I'll call naughty and innocent, this is in fact the real performance of the system we developed. Right. What's the problem with that? We can go interactive at this stage. What do you think the problem is with this confusion matrix? Somebody whispered the right answer, which is exactly right. The problem is false alarms. And if you're only getting 90% of something right, and a typical email server might be getting 20, 30,000 image attachments in an hour, you can imagine that you've got an awful lot of false alarms. You've got an awful lot to go wrong. So you have to be very sensitive about how you implement this system. And when you start looking at those false alarms, which I can show you now, they are not very naughty. Yes. Our system has a strange and paranoid fantasy about furniture. Now, what can you do? Because you're always going to have this problem. So the way the guys implemented this in reality was very interesting. What they did was they, instead of blocking the emails, which would have been very annoying, they popped up a little notice which said, we have scanned your image attachment, and it looks like it might be naughty. Don't worry, we haven't blocked your email, we've taken a copy. And we've put it in this quarantine area, and at some time later, the system admin will log in and look at the email. It's brilliant, isn't it? It's so brilliant. I have a deep suspicion that just putting up the box without Richard's very clever system might have been more effective, but it was a wonderful bit of implementation. Now, okay, so that was the sex. Now, what about some violence? Well, the violence is more serious. As Dave said, I was on an aircraft this morning, and you know what happens on an aircraft. There is increasing worry, and rightly so, paranoia, about what goes on in people's luggage. So just returning to our classification of what happens in this system, we have been interested in a problem of analysis that is of interest to the aircraft industry. Now, does anyone know what that is? Can anyone say what that is a picture of? Does anyone know what it might be? If let me tell you, it's a suitcase. Okay, it's actually a slice from a CT scan of a suitcase, and the bottom. Do I have a? I think I do have a pointer. Do I? Yes, great. The bottom part here is what we would think of as the belt. Okay, this is the suitcase here. This person's got a bottle of Coca-Cola in there, and that's the water level there. That's a laptop, I think. These are books, these are clothes. I can't remember what that is. Now, this is a real problem. This problem of baggage analysis is really very tricky, because this is what the security guard sees. And it's very tricky to get from that to threat. So one of the problems that we've been looking at for the Department of Homeland Security is, could we not only represent that in 3 dimensions, which is relatively easy, but could we filter out the small-scale stuff and the large-scale stuff and make it so much easier to detect objects that might be threat objects? Now, this is an innocent data set, so it doesn't have any weapons in it or anything that's going to go bang. There are things in here that are innocent surrogates for things that are going to go bang. And so a very able guy who, is he here? Paul Southam is here, I think, worked on this problem. And the idea was to try and segment out, as we would say, the objects that were likely to be of interest. So what we're seeing here is a 3D visualization of the luggage. And what I like about this presentation, and it might not be so obvious to you, is we have removed all of the small-scale stuff and all of the large-scale stuff. And the way we did it is very easy. We scanned through the whole 3D volume, looking for regions that were noticeably brighter than or darker than their background. We used a nice algorithm developed by a friend of mine, Professor Andrew Bangham, who died recently. And one of the features of this algorithm is it's able to separate out these wonderfully thin, filigree objects, like these wires here, which are attached to, I think, probably a Walkman or some electronic device. These are terribly important in threat analysis for the obvious reason. So one very interesting thing about devices that are about to go bang is their topology, which is the way they're arranged, might be very flexible. The accelerator might be over here, the detonator has to be next to it, but the thing that makes it, the trigger, could be a long way away. What we're able to do here is ignore the, sorry, did I say topology? I meant the geometry. It could be very variable, but the topology is fixed. You know in a bomb that there is a trigger, there is some wires connecting the trigger, there is a detonator, and there's a thing that will go bang. All of those things have to exist, and they must be connected in some way. So doing this analysis allows us to pull out, in rather a neat way, these potential things. Now, of course, you want to go further than that, really. What you want to do is to look at a volume like this and to automatically extract from it the things that you think are likely to be threatening. And in this project, we went a little bit further and were able to take some of that training data and take our segmented image over there and extract from it the object that, in this case, we felt was threatening. I know a water bottle doesn't seem exactly the most threatening object, but for various reasons which we can't discuss in this forum, we were very interested in water bottles. Okay, so up to this point in the lecture, everyone, I think, now has a good understanding of segmentation. Right? You know that's looking for things in the image. Everyone, I think, has a good understanding of feature extraction. That's pulling those numbers out of those segments and deciding something about them. And then the last bit, which is making some inference from those numbers, is called classification. Great. Those are two wonderful little hors d'oeuvres that's got me to my main point of the evening, which I really want to talk about for a bit longer, which is lip reading. Okay. Now, lip reading is such a fascinating area. This is my subterfuge part of the talk. And the fascinating thing for me about lip reading is that almost the press seems to be full of misinformation about lip reading. Everywhere you go, there seems to be some sort of specious analysis of lip reading. So I've decided, ladies and gentlemen, because we've reached a point in the lecture when we need to have some audience interaction, that we should play lip reading fact or fiction. I wished I had the music from da-da-da-da-da. Okay, so I'm going to give you some lip reading facts, and you can tell me, is it fact or fiction? And we'll see how we do. Okay, so let's start with the first one, which is right back to history. This is wonderful Benjamin Franklin, that wonderful US inventor. And what Franklin invented a number of things, but he was particularly proud of his invention of bifocal spectacles. Once you're my age, you're very enthusiastic about bifocal spectacles. And he found them extremely convenient. But look what he discovered. He said that when one's ears are not well accustomed to the sounds of a language, a sight of the movements and the features of him that speaks helps to explain, so that I understand French better with the help of my spectacles. How true that is. You know, well, let me ask you. I assume you accept that as a truth. By the way, while we're on what I like about Benjamin Franklin is he's also famous for this wonderful quote, which I think corresponds very precisely with my view of God. So Franklin was able to, very early on in his career, determine that his audio perception of French was improved somehow by his vision. And for those of you who've had to speak a foreign language on telephone, you will recognise, I expect, the fear and sort of grim sort of feeling of having to speak Italian on the telephone, which is not a pleasant experience compared to speaking face-to-face with someone or whatever your bad second language of choice is. Now, that said, if we move straight into fiction, I'm always wildly irritated by the fictional portrayal of lip reading as something that is almost effortless under very difficult circumstances. And rather than show you 2001: A Space Odyssey, which a lot of people do, I'm going to show you something that's a bit more lowbrow, which is, this is Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible 3.
I don't know what to say to you. Rassel's right. You're out of control. Look at me. Ethan, at least show me the courtesy of looking at me when I'm talking to you. It's just, this is so disappointing.
I wish there was something I could do to help you, but
Take him to the holding cell.
Yes. Who thinks that's a realistic portrayal of reality? No one. Good. Yeah, it's a very challenging situation. That not only can Tom Cruise apparently lip read, he does it in other Mission Impossible films with great ease, but he can lip read Chinese as well, which is a particularly difficult language to lip read for reasons that might come up later on in this talk. So you might think, there's no difference, is there? Everybody knows the difference between a fictional film like Mission Impossible and a factual film, a documentary. So let me show you a clip from a documentary. This is a documentary called Hitler's Private World. It was filmed in 2006, the same year as Mission Impossible. And here's a clip.
Rebuilding the soundtrack to Hitler's home movies will give us a first-hand glimpse into that personality. A remarkable new technology, ALR, or automated lip reading, is a way of finding out what people are saying if you can see them but can't hear them.
Speech is made up of a series of sounds. In British English there are about 44 of them. And the idea behind speech recognition really is to try and identify the sounds of speech by seeing some sort of pattern which identifies that particular sound. Automatic lip reading is just a variant on that in a way, that you're going to try and use the features of a speaker's face, probably his lips and mouth movements, to try and see if you can identify some sort of feature that is linked to a speech sound.
Frank Hubner is profoundly deaf and as a consequence mute, but he has used his exceptional lip-reading skills to become an expert in speech recognition. At his studio in Germany, he combines this new technology with his skill as one of the world's leading lip readers to analyze the silent Birkhoff footage of Hitler.
The whole range of body and facial movements are important. A lip reader can see things that a computer can't. Computers can enhance recorded footage of a person and allow you to detect more than the human eye alone.
Now, when we saw this video, this documentary, we were somewhat alarmed because we had just been awarded £750,000 by the Engineering and Physicals Research Council to do precisely what was done in this documentary. It gets worse, actually, because later on in the film, Professor Sir Richard Evans, who is a former alum of UEA and an expert on German history, is invited to test the efficacy of the system that they've developed.
One of the world's leading experts on Hitler is Professor Richard Evans of Cambridge University. He wants to know how well Dr. Hubner's ALR system works before he sees what it can do to the Birkhoff home movies. So Professor Evans is filmed with a camera similar to the one used by Eva Braun, from the side as well as the front. No sound is recorded. He speaks in German, and the words are noted down and kept secret from Dr. Hubner and his team.
Diese neue Technologie soll besser funktionieren als das traditionelle Lippenlesen. Mal sehen. Ich bin an das Ergebnis dieses Experiments sehr interessiert.
With the test footage completed, the system has to prove itself. Dr. Hubner loads a film clip into his computer, and the software isolates the area around the mouth. It tracks every movement of the lips, frame by frame. The computer stores all the different shapes and the tiny movements the mouth makes in a particular sentence. Having captured all the lip movements, the system can then associate the mouth shapes with particular sounds. It creates an animated head that mimics the shape the mouth makes. Each shape represents a sound, and the computer has a library of over 30,000 words that it can pronounce. So the computer finds the words to match the mouth shapes on the animated head, plays the sound back, and the end result comes out as recognizable speech.
Interesting clip, isn't it? Just so I can see your faces. How many people, having seen those two clips, which honestly are perfectly representative of the documentary, would believe that automatic lip reading is a reality? Yes, I certainly would. I mean, you're more pessimistic than me. So I've met Dr. Hübner, who I know. He isn't dumb, by the way. He speaks if he wishes to. He hasn't done an automatic lip reading system. The system he uses is 3 people in a room looking at the independently looking at the video and trying to lip read it. They write it down and then they come to some conclusions about what was said. That's what they do. Okay? The only use he makes of the computer is the use I'm making of it now to replay the video. He doesn't do any motion of analysis of the lips. He doesn't do any 30,000 word recognition. The 30,000 words come in because he uses a standard speech synthesizer to replay what was said, because he likes to try and match the shapes that's coming out of his synthesizer to the shapes he's seeing on the screen. By the way, that is a whole different kettle of fish and not easy to do, and I think highly unlikely to work. It's a completely dishonest portrayal of what has happened. Now, I shouldn't be surprised. You're much more sensible than me and are not surprised to see lies in documentaries, but what I'm giving you an impression of is that this skill of lip reading is not at all easy to get a bead on. You know, it's a highly slippery and mercurial skill. And I want to come back to this. Now, I should have kept the lights up, so let's just have a look. Now, can anyone in this audience lip read? Okay, you're all wrong. I mean, you can all lip read. And I'm going to prove it to you now, I hope. So in a moment, I'm going to play you a video clip. And I just want you to, well, let's play it with the lights up. I think it will be okay. And you tell me what's being said in this clip, okay? I must apologise for this clip, which was filmed. It's a video of me. And as you can see, I'm not a particularly attractive person, but especially close up. And it was filmed while I was absolutely knackered in a hotel room in Amritsar. So I don't look at my best. But what I'm interested in you telling me is, what am I saying? Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba. Right. What do you think I'm saying? Well, let me give you a bit of a clue. I'll play it again, and what I'd like you to do is close your eyes and see if you hear something different with your eyes closed. Okay, that's all I want you to do. So just play it again. Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba. Now, let me tell you what I hear, because I'm not looking at it. When I have my eyes closed or I'm not looking at the screen, I hear ba, 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 ba. When I look at the screen, I hear something that sounds to me either like ga, ga, or da, da, or some people hear tha, tha, or va, va. What I've done here is I've dubbed the video of ga with the audio of ba. And your brain is fusing the two into this rather muddled audio, which you are seeing. Okay? You hear something different when you look at the lips. And because it's quite big, you can just flick your eyes away from the lips and hear something different. If I just play it again, you should be able to do that. Now, this is a very well-known effect. It's called the McGurk Effect. Ba, 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 ba. So, for me, it changes just as I flick my eyes from one side to the other. Not everyone gets it. Ba, 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 ba. Ba. So can you see if I silence it, this is ga. Now, this is a very well-known effect. Almost everyone has this is fooled by this fusion, and it's evidence. It is used as evidence that even people who don't think they can lip read. If I do this, for example, and I cover my lips, you can feel your cognitive load increasing a bit as you are struggling to just understand what I'm saying on the audio channel alone. And the McGurk Effect is become a bit of a source of comedy in our area, because having seen it worked, obviously it would work in Chinese or Italian or any language. The effect is there in your brain. It doesn't matter what you speak. Nevertheless, psychologists seem to have a small living to be made in repeating the McGurk Effect, the McGurk Effect in Japanese, the McGurk Effect in Chinese. Yes, the McGurk Effect works in all languages. It even works, our ultimate comedy paper, which we did accept at a conference we were running, was the McGurk Effect in spoons. The McGurk Effect exists in spoons. So if you take a video of a steel spoon being hit, it goes ping, and you take a wooden spoon that's being hit, thunk, and you mix them up, people will confuse the spoons. Yeah. To me, this is the ultimate trivial research, but anyway, there you go. Now, let's try a more difficult one to see if you can do this. I think you might not be able to do this, but let's see. I'm going to play you a video of a lady who is bilingual, and in one of these videos, she is reading the United Nations Declaration on Human Rights in English, and in the other one of those videos, she is reading it in French. I can see at least one native French speaker in the audience, so let's give him a chance by dipping the lights. Now, which one of these videos is French and which one of them is English? Right, let's have a vote. Who thinks it's French on the right? Who thinks it's French on the left? That's a victory to the right. Now you want me to... let's turn up the audio so you can hear. Well done. The right's got it right, yeah? And you're absolutely right, Richard. It's that oo sound is so distinctive in French, although this is a tricky one because this lady has quite a strong, distinctive French accent in English. When I played this, I did a little tour of Indonesian high schools. Don't ask me why, but I did. And I played this as a game with Indonesian high school kids. And they got it 100% right. I've noticed that the younger you are, the better you are at solving this problem. I think it's one of those situations where the more you know, the worse you become at something, which is... Thanks, that's a good advert for a professor, isn't it? Once you know enough to be a professor, you're completely useless to humanity. Now, what a confused and silly situation this is. But it can be a cause of great entertainment and comedy. And what it means, of course, is that this ambiguity in lip shape can be used to great advantage. So if anyone's seen the bad lip reading channel on YouTube, which has become in the lab, it's become our favourite YouTube channel above all. You can get these wonderful results where you can overdub a very serious event with audio that is less serious but matches the lips.
Governor Mike Huckabee, how was your summer? It was dope, like your pretty gelled head. Oh, thank you. I'm getting it permed. Hey, all you freaks are bozos, but who's this Mindy? Oh, an old friend, actually. She's great. Okay, you have to be joking. She pooped on the treadmill. Ooh, oh yeah, that's her.
Governor Christie, when you were younger, what was your favorite childhood snack?
I just wanted regular potatoes. But guess what? So did other people. I wanted it the most, so I'm like...
You just froze a baby.
I wanted the most.
You just froze a baby.
I did not.
Genital warts. You touched a genital wart. You can't touch it.
Hey, guys, hey. All right,
You're
enough.
a wart toucher.
Stop saying that. Mr. Trump, will I have a pigeon? Lucas Don Velour. I always take it shopping because I want to and because it's got health. Whatever, look, it's a thing that tuna melt does to me. Senator Cruz.
You shouldn't say the S word.
What?
Well, we could just go out and collect a dead swan, and then I will drink a sorority's goldfish.
It's wonderful, isn't it? Yeah, do have a look at it. Now, of course, what's going on there is that the wonderful imprecision in lip motions is being used to great comic effect. Lip motions are generally regarded as not unique. Now, what this led to, and still is out there, I think, is a whole load of reasons why automatic lip reading, in fact, human lip reading, might be very troublesome. And here are some of them. You know, they're very, and we could trot out another 50. It's a splendid muddle, you know, just the sort of thing that you love as an academic to get your teeth into. So what we decided to do, and this is always a good answer to academic questions, is to go and collect some data. So what we did, in conjunction with the University of Surrey, and most of these handsome-looking people are students or faculty members at the University of Surrey, was record a whole load of video data at different angles, 0, 30 degrees, 45, 60, and 90 degrees, and importantly, fully transcript it and track it. And this is still the largest database in the world of this type, and fully transcripted. I can give you a sort of feeling for some of these utterances. They actually are taken from a well-known speech recognition data set called the Resource Management data set, and Stephen Cox, who's sitting over here, had a happy or unhappy set of evenings carving out precisely what sentences we should use for this, because we don't use the full set, because recording video is quite expensive and quite a hassle. So this is one of the talkers.
What is the constellation's gross displacement in long tons? Show me all alerts. Show the Enterprise's home port. Is England's remaining fuel insufficient to arrive in port at current speed? List Fox's average displacement and capabilities.
Yeah, well, it's not exactly everyday conversations, is it? But they're a model for US naval operations sentences. And in a way, we don't mind precisely what the sentences are. You know, they have a grammar, they have a structure, and we're going to use them for testing. Now, the first challenge, just thinking about some of the criticisms that are made of this work, is to track the head and work out what angle this person is at. And up to this point, people really believed that you had to do lip reading face on. That was the only way you could track the lips. So that turns out not to be true. And what we're doing here is, in conjunction with the University of Surrey, running an adaptive lip tracker that is tracking this thing, and it's actually it's running 3 possible models for the head, and we're artificially shifting the head just by chopping between video streams. And the idea is that we're automatically selecting that angle. You can go further than just selecting the angle, because once you've done that angle detection, it turns out to be possible to warp the shape back to some canonical angle, like maybe the central angle or something like that, and do recognition on that. So the first thing that people said, which is really lip reading is only possible square on, that really isn't true. That's not true at all. And in fact, we get an advantage when we're slightly off angle. And if you speak to professional human lip readers, they too get an advantage when they're slightly off angle. And we think it's probably because the protrusion effect is flattened when you're straight onto someone. So that's tracking, which allows us to know roughly where the lips are. The next bit is that bit I was talking about in those other 2 things, feature extraction. That's bringing out those numbers that represent what's going on in the lip region. Now, to explain this, there's a wonderful bit of animation that was done by Ian Matthews, which I cannot top, so I'm going to use it. This is Ian, who was a graduate student here. He's now running a lab in Disney Research in Pittsburgh. And the idea is, given some video like this, you sample it. So you just take some sample images, and that's what we've got here. And then you go round each one of those images and you dot around them. You don't have to do very many of them, maybe 10 over the whole sequence. Having done that, you can then feed those labelled images into a bit of mathematics called principal component analysis. And I don't want to explain how principal component analysis works, and it's not very material. But what it gives you is like a sort of cartoon shape with modes of variation. So it's a bit like if you see those sort of modes of variation in a drum head or something like that, or you think of these sliders, you can adjust this mask to fit the shapes that we're seeing in this image here. Now you can go further though, because you can then fit that shape to your images. And so you warp that shape to the images, and then you do another principal component analysis. And now what we've got going on down in the left here looks really weird, doesn't it? It's the appearance of Ian changing without any of the shape variation. So you can see the shadowing changing, his expressions changing, his eyes are moving and so on. There's these two separate components in the feature vector. There's the bit that's dealing with the shape, and there's the bit that's dealing with the appearance. The whole thing is known together as an active appearance model. And most importantly, even though you build it on only 10 images or so, you can fit it automatically to the whole sequence. So that's great. That now allows us to take a video and convert it into a set of numbers. So you can take a video like that on the left, using your training data to drive your tracking engine. You can extract some features, and then you feed it into the machine learning algorithm. And the machine learning algorithm is complex, but no more complex than what would be used for acoustic speech recognition. So we would either use the hidden Markov model or the deep neural network, both of which are the sort of standards for that thing. So in this problem here, we are doing word recognition, and there are two words that need to be recognized. This is what's called a keyword spotting problem. I can show you that working. This is one of our sponsors, and who was asked to just blather on in a random way, occasionally peppering his conversation with the words Manchester and Liverpool.
Amounts of money paid to players, and it's difficult to see sometimes how this money can be recovered, either through television rights or payment at the gates. And of course there is also the merchandise that helps to contribute to the funds. But overall, it's still difficult, particularly in view of the large amounts of money involved. Now, top clubs, such as Manchester, seem to have quite a lot of money to spend on players. But players, even then, aren't always happy. And they will go to other clubs, such as perhaps Liverpool, or vice versa. Players will come from Liverpool to Manchester.
Now remember, we're doing this like this, okay? We don't have the audio. You have the audio. We don't have the audio. We have to just look at his lip shape, and you can see the track that we're running here on the lips. And this is an unconstrained. What he's saying is completely unconstrained, but what we're solving is only looking for two words, called the keyword spotting problem. Now, whenever we show this to the experts, they're always deeply unimpressed, and indeed we were deeply unimpressed, and we had to have our arms twisted rotten to do this experiment because we thought it was trivial. But I think it isn't that unimportant actually, because it does give people an illustration of how this system might work. Now, one of the challenges was, dealing with naturalistic video, but to be fair, this is hardly naturalistic, and it's not a particularly challenging video source. So let me show you a more challenging video source, which is meant to replicate outdoors. It's actually shot on a handheld camera. You might find it a bit offensive because it's quite wobbly. Just close your eyes if it's going to bother you.
From Manchester United.
Oh, Gary's still going on, right. So let's just have a look at a slightly more challenging environment. Now what we're doing here is we're running two systems side by side. We don't need to worry what they are, but if you like, just take which one will give the best performance? Green. So if you look at the green, let's see how Gary does here.
I am going to San Jose soon. I am going to Dallas again. I am going to see Philadelphia soon. I am going to see Philadelphia again. I am going to San Jose soon. I am going to see Chicago again. I am going to Chicago.
Now again, very simple task. This is, I think it was 6 cities chosen by Gary. But slightly more challenging environment. And you can move to an even more challenging environment if you wish. This is particularly challenging because it was absolutely freezing when we shot this footage in the grounds of the University of Surrey. 2 people, again, keyword spotting task.
To San Antonio and Phoenix. And I remember in Phoenix, I stayed in
now this is particularly challenging video. It's obviously very shaky. It's heavily interlaced, so you can see interlaced tearing going on. The lips are very small.
I thought I'll try this. Sounds quite interesting.
When we started this work, we were told, I don't know who this goon is who appears in the background, poor member of Surrey who's accidentally caught on film doing something he shouldn't be doing, going out for a cigarette or something. We were told very clearly that in order to do lip reading, you needed very high definition cameras taken at very high speed, you needed very controlled lighting, you needed people straight on, and you needed a whole load of things going for you, and even then it was going to be very difficult. This isn't the case. Now, a lot of these things here, you know, really are very challenging video environments and really rather delightful outcome. But there is an important source of variation that I have missed out here. And that important source of variation is person dependence. And person dependence is very important in lip reading, and I personally think it's much more important than audio dependence. The thing about audio dependence is when you were learning to speak, probably someone sort of slapped you around the head and said, don't put the emphasis on the wrong syllable. You know, you were told how to speak. Nobody corrects your lip shape when you speak. And we deal with quite a few people who have lopsided lips. They talk out the side of their mouth and they don't know it. And they don't mind about it. And so long as it sounds right, you don't mind what you look like when you talk. Actually, I mind very much. I got very offended by people who don't talk properly. But there's a great source of variation. And up till this point, this has been a major challenge dealing with this. And I now want to talk about something that's absolutely up to the minute, by which I mean Yujan, who's probably sitting in the audience at the back there, gave me the results from this morning. And what we're trying to do here is correct, using a number of technical interventions, the problem of person dependence. And rather than explain what each one of these interventions are, what I'm going to do is show you the results, particularly as time presses upon us. So what I'm doing here, running from left to right, is a series of more and more complex machine learning things. The thing to note is up the top, we've got word accuracy up here. This is what we would achieve with audio. Okay, so this is what you're used to in very quiet, nice acoustic environment. And we're slowly creeping up. We're trying to close that gap between the audio and the video. This is video only over here. Now then, let's just pop back and have a look at this. What's particularly useful for us out of this video is all of these lines here represent different variations in the tracking. A number of people felt that tracking the lips was one of the things that was likely to be sort of poleaxe our performance. Without tracking the lips, there was no chance of getting effective video. We don't think that's true because these are deliberately degraded trackers. And you can see they all pretty much have the same shape. The thing that matters very much is the type of machine learning you're doing down here. This is the method du jour, which is the deep neural network method here. And what we're doing along here is a series of interventions to deal with person independence. These are the best known lip reading results for person independent lip reading in the world right now. Now then, final question, how does it compare to humans? So one way of looking at that would be to measure human accuracy on the same data that we were looking at earlier, this strange Opsrums data. And we might measure the human word accuracy, which is up this axis here. We might also measure their phoneme accuracy. That's the accuracy they would make on the units of speech. So let's do that. Now, where do you think... Well, let me ask you this. The experiment I did was we hired 6 professional forensic lip readers. These are people who earn a living looking at videos for journalists and the police and so on. Where do you think the word accuracy of our first. Let's put the lights up and get a bit of interaction. Right, what I'll do is I'll move my laser pointer. Can you see it? Right. Where do you think professional human lip readers sit? So, you think up? Lower? Yeah, you can lower, right? Okay. You think here? Yeah? These are professional forensic lip readers. If you're interested, the whole job, which was doing a small amount of video, cost us about £5,000. They're very expensive. Right, good. Thank you for getting that wrong. Here's the first lip reader's performance. That's 0, folks. They didn't get a single word right. Okay. Now, to be fair, this was their performance with only a small amount of training and not knowledge of our bizarre vocabulary. You know, it's bizarre, that vocabulary. So if I gave them the vocabulary, do you think their performance would get better or worse? Better. Yeah, I agree. It couldn't get worse. Yeah? Great. It does, okay? Lip Reader 4 did indeed. Is that Lip Reader 4? Got better. Right, let's have a look at some other lip readers. I've only got 6 of these, so don't worry, it won't be too painful. It's Lip Reader 3. Now I give Lip Reader 3. Do you think their performance got better or worse? Better? You're seeing a pattern here. Lip Reader 2. Lip Reader 2 undertook the test and told me that their error rate was unchanged. Okay? Lip Reader 5 undertook the test and told me their performance was unchanged. Lip Reader 1, this is Lip Reader 1. What are you expecting to happen to this person? Get better, yeah. No. They got worse. Massively worse. Now, out of the 6, here is the jewel in the crown. This is Lip Reader 6. I wished I knew who these people were. We had to keep them anonymous so that their careers were protected. And they didn't murder us for such a difficult test. And look at Lip Reader 6. That's brilliant, isn't it? That person is brilliant. I have an inkling as to who that person might be, but I better not say. Now, okay, so your final question. Where do you think our crummy computer system sits? Now, I'll give you a clue. A few weeks ago, it was about here. As of yesterday, we're there. Yes! What a result that is. Okay. Have I just published it by accident? Probably have. Okay, so that is quite encouraging. It means that our computer system is achieving the sorts of performance that professional lip readers are going. And we can debate, and we probably will in a moment, whether the tests were skewed towards my system. And I think they probably were. You know, it's just a fact of life. And you can see that when we give our system must have a vocabulary, otherwise it can't do any recognition. Now then, so where does that all leave us? Well, the first thing I want to say is working in computer vision is a really interesting thing to do. And if you're out there thinking, what should I work on next? Why not work on computer vision? So it's a really fascinating thing to do. I'm afraid I didn't really tackle the problem I set up for you, which is how can I really sense peril? And I think you could see from my rather patchy answer that you can't really deal with the problem. I'm afraid Zaphod Beeblebox's sunglasses are a long way off. But I would say that peril in reality does come in many forms, and it is becoming possible to tackle some of those forms quite specifically. Now, just thinking about peril in one of its forms, I thought a good way to end this lecture actually is with one of UEA's alumna, someone called Nina Conti, who has a brilliant act that uses lip reading to its full effect, and here she is.
I'm always sort of hunting for the perfect puppet, and I need another volunteer, and I wonder if I could borrow you on the end. What's your name?
It's Luke.
Luke.
Luke, yeah.
So what do you do, Luke?
I'm a student.
You're a student. Excellent. Can we give it up for Luke, please? Come on up. Thank you. Now, could you stand on that side of me? So, Luke, I'm just going to give you a slight makeover with this mask here. Take your glasses off, thank you. And, can you see?
Yeah.
Now, this is just a simple mask. It's going to take the heat off you. You're right. All right. Are you comfortable? Oh, yes, I'm loving it. Okay. Oh, this is classic. Okay. Oh, I wasn't expecting this. So, Luke, yes. Are you happy to be here? You're okay? Yes, I'm delighted with the way things are going so far. Okay, good. Yes, in fact, I'm really glad you got me up here. Why is that, Luke? Because I'd like to show you all my dance moves.
Very cruel, but very true. So that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes what I had to say to you, other than to point out that almost everything I've been talking about this evening has been done by a set of very able and talented colleagues and graduate students, and here is a list of some of them. Thank you.